So, Fem, do you hate Indians?
No, I do not.
Well, then what is this?
Your family is from India. You have no respect. You have no rules.
You're not Canadian. I want you to go back.
Okay. Indians, Bangladeshis and all, if they want, they can not allow them. And when I showed my passport, the official state started laughing and said, you can't go through. I just had one of the worst experiences of my whole life.
Well, there are certain things I do dislike about Indians.
You see, we Indians, we deserve all the hate we get overseas. And here's the reason why. Hi, my name is Yash. And if you've traveled abroad as an Indian, you would know that there have been certain instances that you felt like you were not being treated fair. And this might have had something to do with the fact that you hold an Indian passport. You see, for hundreds of years, there have been white supremacy groups. For example, the Ku Klux Klan. These are terrorist, white supremacy, secret groups which have been involved in the killings of many brown and black people. You can learn more about such supremacy groups on the FBI website. In fact, the latest activities even date back to 1997, which is very recent. Now, why do I mention the Ku Klux Klan? This video is not about race. The widespread hate against Indians that you see overseas, it is not based on their skin color in most cases nowadays. It is based on certain behavioral characteristics that I'm going to be talking about. So today we have Fem joining us, and she's from the Netherlands. Now, she's been in many countries over Europe, US, and now in India as well. And I'd like to ask you today, what do you think is the biggest reason for hate against Indians overseas?
So, there's actually several factors. The biggest reason would be patriotic colonization. I'll explain that with an example. Take a look at this video.
So in one of the videos, for instance, you saw Indians dancing in front of a band, and the band members were just looking around, still trying to perform, do their thing. I mean, they're doing this for money, but at the end of the day, the Indian music over there is so overpowering that you can barely at all hear anyone basically doing their band over there. The whole point of my argument is that there are literally streets like this in Canada, in many areas in the US, and almost everywhere in the world, where Indians have made a habit out of doing this. Every night, you would see the same kinds of performances. People go there, Indians are dancing, they're celebrating with no regard for people around them. And take a look at some of the comments under this video. Look at what kind of responses other people are giving. We Indians are ruining our image in public. No other country is seen doing this. Is there?
I also see that most of the time, many Indians, they group together. They don't really assimilate with other people either, which is to me one very big red flag, because when you're going to another country, you're expected to assimilate, to integrate into that country, right? But I don't see that happening in these videos, for example.
But I also feel like for Indians, it's very difficult to assimilate with other people. Sometimes I, as an Indian, feel like people don't always want to interact with me just because I am an Indian. I also have that feeling. I think there's a bridge that we have built in between us, and it's probably because of our behavior and now what other people think of us. And that bridge is something that we're just not able to get through as of now.
Fair enough. I do understand that. Also, take a look at this video. It essentially displays a rickshaw in Canada. To me, that's something that should not really be part of the infrastructure in Canada itself. I mean, you're essentially trying to bring India to Canada, and you're coming to Canada for a reason, I suppose. So changing the environment, changing the infrastructure is something that white people, or Canadians in particular, do have a problem with.
I think anywhere, if you sort of go over there and you start trying to make it India itself, people have the argument that why don't you go back to your own country where these things already exist? Leave our country alone, leave us alone, be, whatever way we used to be, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Another one of the examples I want to show you is, again, from Canada. There's this video.
This is me sleeping in my bed.
And there is a wedding that has been going on all night. It's 9 a.m.
That went viral on the internet a couple days back, where there's this Canadian woman. She needed to get to work in the morning until 9 a.m. in the morning. There are Indians partying, dancing, they're having a marriage. I mean, there's nothing wrong with marrying someone and, having a gala time and doing it on the street, but I feel like they just did not ask any permission from their neighbors, just perform the whole ceremony
Yeah.
in the street. In India, it just works. We are very adjusting. We're very adjusting people, when it comes to Indians with Indians. We realize that sometimes things are just the way they are, we can't change them, but other countries, I think they're just not so used to that.
Yeah, I believe there's more of a higher regard of others around you in comparison to India, essentially. So that's why it's also considered a little bit rude to be able to do that. Although I have seen that a lot of white people, a lot of Canadians or people from the US are very impressed by the way weddings, for example, are performed in India. So it's not as such the wedding, it's really about, being considerate of others.
Let's talk about the second major point over here, and that is the lack of civic sense. So, Google over here describes civic sense as essentially consideration for others and the environment. So, basically, respecting others, not breaking the law, being tolerant, understanding others and their environment. And when you're going into a new environment, you have to adapt a little bit according to the environment. That is essentially the definition of civic sense. Well, in India, we are probably more prone to break the law
Yeah.
than others. I mean, you've been living here for the last 2 years almost.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you've seen people are driving wrong side all the time.
Yeah.
People are just doing things that are against the law, and it just flies. It just works.
Where people can bend the rules in India, they will do it, of course, to their benefit.
And I think it's also because of the competition we have. Everyone has a bit of
Yeah.
a selfishness essentially in them that, I want to do this my way, or I should be able to get through first.
Yeah, I should be able to be the first of the line because my issue is more important. But that's not what flies in, let's say, Canada or US or Australia, for example.
Yep.
You wait in line, you're considerate of other people. And that is something I think a lot of people are facing issues with.
So take a look at this one, for instance. Over here, an influencer with over 1 million followers on Instagram goes into a flight and starts playing loud music in the airplane. I don't know how this is acceptable. They are using loudspeakers. We are advised not even to do that in our metros. But even for someone who's educated enough to have 1 million followers, essentially, they are doing it. People cutting into lines. Many cases we have seen, when I'm traveling, you're traveling, you would see that sometimes an Indian person just comes ahead of you and just stands in front of you,
Yeah.
even though you're in the middle of the line. That's the kind of attitude that is giving us a bad view in the eyes of other people. And that's essentially why people are disliking us.
Another example is littering public places. I see this everywhere in India as well. Let's say we drive to, let's say, a hill station. You see people just throwing out trash outside their window. That does not fly in Western civilization. It just does not. Personally, I consider that to be a crime, to be littering public places.
And one of the major reasons, again, point number 3 for me personally, is the misogyny that we sometimes carry. That's almost, look at this video, it's almost going to give you second-hand embarrassment.
ये बेचारे खड़े खड़े देखते रहे आजा आजा बैठ जा
Even though this white person might not understand what this, Indian person said to them, but at the end of the day, it's utterly disrespectful. It is almost, I mean, it sounds rapey. It just sounds so wrong.
It's very wrong.
And God forbid if someone around this person, this white person, explains to them what's really going on over here. I don't know if she would feel safe going into the street in front of an Indian man again.
Definitely.
It's
Yeah.
it's simply unacceptable. These kinds of issues, even though this Indian man might not have meant it the way it looks, maybe it's a joke, but at the end of the day, it is misogyny. It is basically unethical in so many ways. It's so wrong, and that's not the kind of image we want to portray. We're not all like that. We're not.
Oh, definitely not. There's so many respectful Indians out there, but these few people, they just ruined the image of every man from India, essentially, which is such a shame.
Now, don't get us wrong, there are various other reasons. For instance, if you take a look at some of the comments under my videos often, Indians are taking up jobs, they are doing illegal work in US, Canada, many other countries. And because of that as well, many people dislike us. They want us to leave. But that's a whole new separate reason. Yes, we are the best at many things in the world. Our country's people are the CEOs and C-suite holders and chairmen of some of the very biggest companies out there, and that's something that we are very proud of. So that's really not the reason why we're making the video right over here. The main reason is that there are limited set of Indians that portray a very bad image, and that's something that we will not be able to fix in the long run.
But you have to keep in mind that every single action you take will impact the image of your country. So that's why it's very important to be mindful of these and make sure that you uphold the image of your country.
You see, India is a land of a great cultural heritage,
Definitely.
great riches, and great people. And we want to uphold that image in front of the whole wide world. Why don't you take a step in the right direction in doing that with us with this video? Share this with the people who need to know, and let's really show people who Indians are.